Good evening. Welcome to the September 11th Lebanon Board of Works meeting. Our first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll move on to the roll call members. Madam Clerk, call roll, please.
Mayor Gentry.
Here.
Becky McClure. Bill Stoner.
Present.
Dick Robertson.
Present.
Alan Milburn.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, and we have the minutes, I believe, right?
We do not.
We do not, okay. So we'll skip that for next time. Move on to department head reports. First up will be Police Department. Major Hood.
Good afternoon. In the time since the last department report, the Lebanon Police Department has responded to 682 calls for service, investigated 30 vehicle crashes, processed 2 gun permits, and effected 11 arrests. Those arrests were for the following charges: 4 on warrants, 3 operating while intoxicated, 2 resisting law enforcement, and 2 for trespassing. Chief Morgan, Lieutenant Williamson, and Officers Hampshire, Robertson, and myself attended the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy Use of Force Legal Update Training Session, with the state mandating a unified use of force policy for all law enforcement agencies. The Indiana Law Enforcement Academy held a training session to discuss the highlights of the policy and how to best train instructors on implementation of this policy moving forward. Range Master Jason Morgan and Firearms Instructor Austin Scott are conducting annual firearms qualifications for the department. They've completed 1 session and another 2 sessions will be pending for later on this month. And finally, Chief Morgan wishes to extend his thanks to the Board of Works for conducting interviews today with our 3 candidates. We think we've got 3 really good prospects. Pending your questions, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Major Hood. Any questions, Major?
No.
For the public?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Next will be Fire Department, Chief Batts.
Good evening, everyone. Since the last Board of Public Works and Safety meeting, Lebanon Fire has made 111 emergency calls of service, logged 276 training hours, completed 9 commercial pre-plans, and performed 76 commercial inspections. During the month of September, LFD firefighters are completing annual fire hose testing. The test is in accordance with the National Fire Protection Association Standard 1962. Firefighters test, inspect, and perform yearly maintenance on the 10,000 plus feet of fire hose. And really, that's all I have for this evening. That takes up a huge amount of time to get that done. So firefighters have just been concentrating on that. We really haven't sent anybody to classes during this time.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Questions for Chief from the board? From the public? Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Next is Parks and Recreation, Jim Messenger.
Good evening. We will be removing a couple of catappa trees in the next couple of days on the northeast corner of Memorial Park, close to Ulan Country Club. If you've seen those, they look pretty nasty. You might have also noticed some stakes that are in the ground. Had it surveyed, and actually Ulan's property comes way into the park. We're going to work something out, clean up that entrance into Ulan and kind of the corner of the park, ripping out bushes, talking about some wrought iron fence, but we're looking through things, and Ulan's going to help us out with those things. But it's amazing how far that is, and nobody can find the survey done way back when. So we'll get that straightened out and try and clean up that entrance, not only to Ulan, but in that corner of the park. Slides at Seashore Water Park have been painted and look very nice. Did a nice job on their warranty work there. Electricity was knocked out last week. Actually, the contractors that put in our lighting had hit the electrical line going into the cabin, but the contractors came back out and made good for it. I want to thank them for coming out and hooking it up. Actually, this weekend is when they did it. And then the Lebanon Utilities did a nice job of coming out and identifying the issues where they had crossed over when they did their boring, and it's just really nice to call the utilities and they jump right out and help us out, and I appreciate that a lot.
Was that what caused the outage on Friday, John? Or
Oh, no. No, we did not cause the outage. Yeah. That outage, however, did shut down the splash pad. It shuts everything down, the dog park entrance. We have to go and reset those. I was at Hardee's getting my breakfast that morning before church. After church, stopped in, got everything fired back up. So it was something that we got going. But yeah, heard quite a bit on that. It's like, why is the splash pad down? Well, that was an electrical issue. I think lights were out and everything else. But thank goodness that Hardee's has a generator, so I got my breakfast, if you're all concerned. Colonial Market Days is this coming weekend. The encampment will be taking place at Abner Longley Park, right down the street this weekend. It's the 16th and 17th. We'll be preparing for many visitors in the park. It's open each day at 9 o'clock. It'll close, the gates close at 5 o'clock on Saturday and 4 o'clock on Sunday. Just to let Scott and all the policemen know, there's a woods battle, so there will be gunfire or, noise anyway. And artillery demo. They have a horse demo for those of you that haven't been. There'll be crafts, handmade goods, potter's molding clay, blacksmiths forging ironwork. So it's really pretty neat that we have that. This is several years that they've been doing that. They have a real nice turnout, and it's actually growing. So there will also be a horse demonstration. You can go to their website to find out any thing that I missed, which I'm sure I missed quite a few things. Lincoln's Lebanon Civil War reenactment and military encampment will take place in Memorial Park at the end of this month on September 30th and October 1st. For more event information, please visit Boone County, Indiana Historical Society's Facebook page. The splash pad, and yes, we will have them camping out for a couple days there also. The splash pad is still open. It'll remain open until further notice. We'll be sure to let everybody know, and we'll be putting it on social media and our website, and also on State Road 39 sign. Temperatures are getting down there in the 50s, and temps at 70 degrees. If the water temperature is below 70 or around 70, we shut it down. It's just too cold for the kids to be out there, and nobody needs to be out in the cold weather anyway. Yeah, we should probably be shutting it down. Last year, we shut down on September 11th today, and probably be closing in the next week or so. So just to let everybody know, get their last splash in. Okay. And that's all I had.
Thank you, John. Any questions for John from the board? From the public? Thank you, sir. Next will be Engineering Department, Kevin Krillick.
Thank you. Good evening. Engineering report for tonight. Sorry, just let me plug in here. In case I run out of battery power here. My apologies. Here we go. Engineering report for tonight. Up on the courthouse square, a couple minor things that we're working on getting scheduled, just to let everybody know. The crosswalk, the east-west crosswalk along Main Street there at the southeast corner of Main and Meridian. We have a lot of issues with water standing there. So we're going to be putting in a drain right there at that crosswalk on the west side. So southeast corner of Main and Meridian. Also doing just some miscellaneous small paver maintenance and repairs around the square, just to maintain the investments that were made there. So you might look for that coming in the next couple of weeks as we work with the contractors to get that scheduled. So you'll be seeing some work happening down there. Shouldn't be any major interruptions of traffic flow, other than some minor flagging associated with some of that work. Nothing like what we did a couple of years ago with having to reset about half of that Meridian Street side of the pavers, just some minor miscellaneous things that we want to take care of before they grow into bigger issues, especially with the winter coming. So look for that in the coming weeks. As we know more on that schedule, we'll put that out on our social media channels. Paving resurfacing over on Riley Road. We have now all the right-of-way parcels acquired. Working with CenterPoint on a reimbursement estimate for a relocation that we need them to do to accommodate our drainage improvements. Probably looking at this time, given the bidding climate right now and the time of year, it's probably going to be a spring construction. So probably something we'll bid in the fourth quarter going into 2024, given the current conditions. Fordyce Road is also a 2024 project, beginning to start working with Baker Tilly on funding strategies for that project, though, and we'll have those before council in the coming weeks, so we can start sharing that with you and getting geared up for the 2024 construction season. Big Four Trail, really, we're just working on the county-wide mile marker signage, which posts should start going in the ground, later this week. It's probably about 2 weeks to wrap that up. Once we wrap up the mile marker signage, then the wayfinding signage around the city, those are all through production, and those will start going into the ground right after we finish up the mile marker signs. That's probably going to be about a 4-week process before we finish that up. So we're really talking about September, October. You're going to see a lot of new signs going up on the active living side of things throughout the city and the county. Also on active living programs, you might notice the new epoxy railroad markings going along the west side of Meridian Street between Main and 32. Those should be wrapped up now. I know they were working earlier today and should have been the last final coat. And then they will be working down there on the concrete driveway that crosses Royal Cleaners and freshening up those markings that were originally painted. We're going back with epoxy now. It's a much more permanent solution. So look for those railroad markers, again, monumenting the Big Four Trail corridor. Let's jump out to the business park, talking about the regional detention system and the regional conveyance system. We are still working with CSX and NDOT. Unfortunately, though, we are seeing comments coming back from those entities now, and we're addressing those. CSX has wanted us to we were planning to just do a jack and bore steel pipe to carry that water under CSX. They would like that steel pipe to be a carrier pipe and then have an RCP inside that, a reinforced concrete pipe. So we're working on that redesign. We're still able to redesign, look at the hydraulics, lower the final size of our pipe to 48 inches from 54 to 48. Provide that steel casing pipe, and still able to accommodate all the upstream capacity. So we're working through that and getting those issues addressed and back to CSX. This still maintains 12 inches of clearance with the center point gas pipeline, which was the required minimum. So we think we've got a workable solution there. We're working through that. NDOT has also commented they would actually like us to open cut State Road 39. We didn't expect that. That will speed up the process. That will reduce the cost of the process, but be a little bit of inconvenience to the traveling public as we work across that road, and we'll have the road completely shut down at that time. But again, working through those additional items, the clarification with NDOT on exactly how they want that to be done, as well as clarifications on the cost reimbursement confirmations are needed before we take that project to bid. Again, I would be looking to taking that to bid in the fourth quarter for spring of '24 construction. Elizaville Road drainage, we're still waiting on 3 remaining parcels to confirm acceptance of our proposed easements before we can move that forward. Again, given the time of year, the climate turning, the bidding climate that we're seeing out there, which we'll talk more about that later, we will be most likely looking at spring of '24 construction for those drainage improvements. The Witt Road project, that's not till construction out in 2027, but we are moving towards our preliminary field check plans, and those are for coordination with utility companies. The preliminary field checks are set to be completed around October 24th, so that's the next major milestone we're tracking there. CSX crossing updates. So these are CSX projects, not cities projects, but we're trying to get as much information we can from CSX. I mentioned this last time that there's about 20 or so crossings across the county. They're slowly working their way up the line from Hendricks County into Boone County. These will primarily affect the following crossings within city limits. We're looking at the crossing at State Road 39. There's a crossing on County Road 125 South. Then as you keep going north, Enterprise Drive, that crossing will be upgraded. The crossing at County Road 300 North will be upgraded. And then the last major upgrade would be at State Road 47. I do want to point out that these CSX-led upgrades will skip County Road 250 North County Road 375 North, and County Road 450 North. 375 and 450 are primarily skipped because they will be reconstructed in association with the Lilly project. Unfortunately, 250 North has to be skipped because we will have road closures on 375 and 450. We don't want to close 250 and 300 at the same time. I wish we could get 250 while they're here, but 300 is the primary corridor, and we want to make sure we get that while they're here. But we don't want to cut off our only two east-west corridors on the north side of town. So we will be skipping 250 north. Any questions on that? I know that was a lot of intersections and
I
crossings.
mean, do we know timeframe wise, it's just kind of as they
It's
get
kind of one
there?
of these things. We don't get a lot of information. We've been given the list. We were told it's just a rolling closure. This is work that is done with equipment that rolls along the railroad tracks. So they just systematically move across the county. They don't back up, which is why they won't come back and get 250 after they get 300. And there's other crossings that are further up to the north out into the county, which again, part of why the global look at this says we got to skip 250 north to keep access open east and west. But yeah, we'll have a couple of days notice as this comes up. We'll try to get that out through all of our social media channels. But all they've really said is this is the order that we're doing things, and we have started. And I would look for them to probably be here sometime in early October. But we'll keep you posted as that moves along.
Kevin?
Yeah.
Refresh my memory. I know this has been on the works for a long time, and I've frankly forgotten what the scope of the work is on the Elizaville Road project.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Elizaville Road project is primarily to create a drainage way, a storm sewer system that will eliminate a lot of flooding that we see primarily in the spring months when the crops aren't in the fields. We get a lot of water coming off of those fields that are north of the middle school that drain towards Elizaville Road and really get hung up by Elizaville Road there. So this is creating storm sewer inlets on both sides of Elizaville Road, kind of from winding way back to the west and then going north to the small Reynolds ditch to correct that drainage problem that we see there. We see a lot of standing water there in the spring, as you might be aware. It's not so bad the rest of the year. I think once the crops are up in the field, we don't see as much runoff. But in the spring, there's about 9 homes there that get flooded out every year. Their yards get flooded out. So trying to fix that.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Grant Street project, probably the largest construction project that the city has going on right now. On our Ann Street phase, the water tie-in is complete, the retaining walls are complete. On the Phase 2 project, which is the east half of the northbound side of Grant Street, all the parking spaces, all the driveway approaches are now complete. On Phase 3, which we are currently in now, which is the west half or the southbound side, that switch over for traffic and construction limits took place on the 31st of August. All the homeowners on that side of the street have really lost their on-street parking, but we have all the parking spaces that are newly created on the east side that is available for parking. We've installed all the temporary driveways, particularly so that the people on the west side can get into their homes, their driveways, their garages, and we'll try to maintain those as much as we can until we get to the point where we are pouring new curbs and pouring driveways for those homeowners later in the season. And then as we wrap up curbs and driveways and paving and striping are scheduled to wrap up right around Thanksgiving this year, probably into December as we look at the schedules. And then opening the project fully right around by Christmas time. So that's what Grant Street looks like right now. And this is just Phase 1. Remind you, there's a Phase 2 Grant Street that extends that project all the way down to Indianapolis Avenue, and that's not scheduled for letting until late 2025. Bike park, we have 2 bid packages out on the street. One is for parking lot and site utility improvements. Unfortunately, I have to report that those bids were due today, and we received no bid packages. So The only real resource I was able to talk to this afternoon was Steve Day with Triangle Asphalt Paving, our local paving contractor. He said that he's not surprised. Him, as well as most other contractors, are just booked up for the rest of the year. And he said the difficulty now is we put the bid package together and had two options. One was to finish it by December 1st. Second option, or the alternate bid, was to provide us with a proposal to finish it by June 1st of next year. We thought that would cover our bases. So the reason why no one is responding is that the major asphalt suppliers will not lock in prices for next year. So most contractors are not willing to take those projects on at a risk when they don't know what the price of asphalt is going to be for 2024 at this time. So I mentioned this a couple of times now, just some of the issues we're seeing in the construction industry, particularly the infrastructure industry. I think we're going to back up and look at bidding these projects in the fourth quarter, in November and December, for spring construction, when hopefully asphalt prices are locked in and we get better response on those packages.
Can we just stone the lot for right now?
It already is stoned. That was part of our mass grading project. So we've already got a secure surface out there for staging and for doing what we've been doing out there. But yeah, we'll have to just hold off until we try that bid package again. So it's on the shelf. We'll just need to change the dates and reissue that I'd say we'd probably issue it in early November for a bid opening in late November or early December, probably right around our last meeting of the year, trying to take care of that schedule. The other packages on the street that we have had a lot of interest on is the cross-country and skills trails. These are the actual natural surface trails. And we pre-qualified 4 bidders. These are bidders that are on a national scale all over the country that are very interested in coming here to build trails and being a part of the project, a part of the relationship we have with NICA. We did hear from them, though, that they are booked up for the rest of the year, so there's no use pushing to try to provide an aggressive schedule to get trails rideable by spring. We heard that from all 4 contractors very loud and clear. So we have issued an addenda that pushes out that construction deadline to August 1 of next year. And we've also pushed out, because of some of the changes and the back and forth that we worked through on those issues, we've also pushed back that bid opening. Originally it was scheduled for tonight. It's going to be in 2 weeks at your next meeting on the 25th. So I think again, because we're pushing the trails out into next summer as well, I think pushing the parking lot into next year again, ideally we would be under construction, but the fact that we didn't get permits till the end of July and give us the green light to go forward, I'm not surprised we're in this state given the time of year. So that's where we're at on Stone Eater. Leap District Road projects, happy to report that the county has finally issued the last remaining permit approval for the reconstruction of the area of North Witt Road that is from about 500 or 525 north to just about a quarter mile south of 47. The county has issued that permit and has permitted the contractor or the developer to reconstruct within the existing pavement limits if they do not have right-of-way acquisition complete. So that does free up the construction schedule. More about that as we get into other agenda items. We're going to revisit the whole construction schedule associated around LEAP and all the closures. So we'll go through all those details and the schedule later in the meeting. But now we do have all road reconstruction that is needed for this year and next year permitted. The only thing that's still out there would be South Witt Road. But that project has not been delivered to us for review, and we'll probably see that go to construction in 2020, at best late next year, probably into 2025, given some of the delays that we've already seen.
Kevin, do you know if IEDC is still going to try to acquire the right-of-way in that section where they don't have it right now?
Yeah, it's my understanding that they're continuing those negotiations, and it's my understanding there's really only one property owner where that acquisition is needed, and that individual owns both sides of the road for about a 300-foot strip. All the other remaining permanent rights-of-way have been acquired. There are some temporary rights-of-way on the east side of the road, because keep in mind primarily they're moving the road west and did most of the right-of-way acquisition on the west side of the road for expansion of North Witt. But they do need some temporary rights-of-way on the east side of the road for some of those driveway transitions. Or, well, they would prefer to have temporary rights-of-way for driveway transitions. But if they don't get them, they can still construct the widening of the road without those temporary rights-of-way on the east side. Does that make sense?
They can still widen the road?
Yep, so they would widen to the west and leave the east edge of pavement, the east shoulder, the east driveway connections, as is, no improvements to be made. If they can get those temporary right-of-ways, they would do some adjustments on those east side driveway approaches, those east side culvert ends that go out into the fields there. If not, everything's going to be limited to the east side edge of pavement and be reconstructed with the widening to the west. If there is right-of-way to the west. If there is not right-of-way to the west, they would just reconstruct the vertical pavement section from edge of pavement to edge of pavement where existing right-of-way exists. It's a lot, I know. You're either confused or you seem to be nodding in the right direction, so if there's no other questions there, I'll move on. All right, the engineering department, inspection department report. Since we last met on the 28th, there have been 14 SWIP inspections, 2 complaint responses, 6 right-of-way inspections, 1 inspection on an illicit discharge, and we continue to work on our pond inventory pursuant to the new MS4 regulations. Take a look at Scott's inspection report. You'll see that he's very busy with the amount of projects that he has on his plate. A lot going on there with inspections as people try to wrap up projects or get them in a state that's ready for winter as we get to that time of year. I hate to say it, but we are. That's all I have. Any questions?
Any other questions for Captain from the board? From the public? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Next up will be Planning Department. Matt Reynolds.
Good evening, Board. Since the last Board of Works meeting, the Planning Department has issued 32 new permits, including 3 new single-family residential homes. Our inspectors have conducted 53 additional building inspections. Code enforcement over the last couple of weeks has slowed down slightly. We'll knock on wood. 10 new complaints in the last 2 weeks and 51 investigative activities to go along with that. So grass and weeds is still kind of the primary thing, but since we're kind of back in that drought session, things are starting to slow down a little bit. Just a reminder, next week's Plan Commission meeting, we do have one of the agenda items, phases 3 through 18 of the Project LEAP annexations. So these are 43 parcels, about 642 acres that the IEDC is looking to annex into the city. So the Planning Commission will examine those and look for a recommendation on zoning to the Common Council. So that'll be next week's Plan Commission meeting. And then we did have one filing for the October meeting, which was a primary plat for the Liberty Village subdivision. A lot of you may remember that from a couple years ago. Arbor Homes started it. It's on the east side of Auburn Meadows along 300 North. It's called Liberty Village, a smaller neighborhood. Arbor wasn't able to make things work, and Lennar has actually stepped in and purchased the property, and it's about 85 single-family residential homes. So that primary plat will be heard at the October Plan Commission meeting. That's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions from Matt from the board? From the public? Okay, thanks, sir. Next will be Street and Stormwater Department. Dave Newell.
How's everybody doing tonight?
All right.
Good. Let's see, we've just been out mowing our easements still, believe it or not, and they're still growing. And the houses and stuff, everything we usually do, filling some potholes, so we're working on some alleys on that as well. So Picking up our trash and our easements, keeping those cleaned up, trying to. Been out painting the curbs. You might have seen the guys out painting the curbs and in front of the fire hydrants. We're getting that back on track this year, so we've got a full staff now, so we're able to break them up and divide and conquer. Same with the sign maintenance. We just, got those guys doing more than just putting up new signs and stop signs that are run over. We're actually being a little proactive, trim tree limbs, signs that are leaning over, faded signs, signs that don't make no sense no more. Like, seen one that said no parking here to the corner on a stop sign, so it's like, yeah, we can probably take it off. Looked like it'd been there for years, but just stuff like that, just trying to be a lot more proactive in our department. Keeping the drains clean of debris, which hadn't been too bad. We really haven't had a lot of rain here lately, thank goodness. This is brush week, so get your brush out, but between the curb and sidewalk preferably, not in the road, and we will get it picked up. We were with 2 chippers out, so that really helps. I mean, we've already made it through 2 trash route days, which is good, so usually it takes us a week and a half. I predict by Wednesday or Thursday we'll be pretty much knocked out, but we'll still run it the entire week like we said we would, but it definitely helps a ton for us. The guys have repaired 3 drains since the last Board of Works meeting, and the next date after this for the rush week will be October 16th through the 20th, and that's going to wrap it up unless we have storms, because we will be into leaf season and then right into plow season if we get any snow. Depends on if John Messenger brings it up or not.
Don't say that. You just said it.
He's the one that's...
You just said the S word. Why'd you say that?
We ain't afraid of snow. Update on the new street department. Just waiting on a few pieces of furniture here and there. We're waiting on a Corson to come in. They just got the fiber optic ran, so Corson, with it being a sprinkler system, they monitor all that, I guess. So that's new to us, but that's who we're using. I guess the city uses them as well. So, and they're going to start cleaning the building this week, they say. So I'd say within the next week or 2, we hopefully can get in there and take it over and get some stuff moving. That might work out for, I know Kevin and them, they're trying to redo up here, so maybe that would open our building to move some people till they can get this done, or however they want to do it. But that's the plan, and the guys have been doing a great job, and that's all I got.
Dave, if someone misses brush week, can they still bring brush to the street department?
Yeah, they can until we move.
Till you move, okay.
And then we won't be able to, won't have nowhere to take it. But
Okay.
we try to remind people, Green Cycle takes it for free,
Okay,
so they don't charge nothing. I know it's a little bit further travel, but
Okay.
as long as they catch us in the building, we got a spot for it and we can chip it up, but at the new place, we won't have that spot.
gotcha, okay.
You have security cameras on the
Yes.
outside of the new building?
Yep,
Okay.
we had those put up already, and they're supposed to come tomorrow since we got internet now, and then we'll take a class on how to look on our tablets or our phones. They're pretty fancy now. You can just monitor them.
Okay.
It'll monitor the recycling, the gate. If somebody comes inside the building, we got one monitoring that and stuff like that.
Okay.
Any questions for Dave from the board? From the public? Yep. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And last but not least, communications and community development, Joe LePage.
Good evening, everyone. Starting once again with the eclipse coming up in 2024, that'll be kind of the main job that I'll be having, and really until the eclipse happens on April 8th of 2024. We had our second planning meeting at the library, talked about establishing some hot spots, some watch spots for the path of totality coming through Lebanon, Indiana in 2024. Fun things to do at each location, so it was great to have about 30 people there or so, and then a couple more online via Zoom to be able to chat about different things that we could do with the visitors and with the locals that we'll have for this tremendous event, and the hype just continues. And so we'll be sending out updates on the third eclipse meeting that's coming up, and so really want the public to attend and take a real ownership of this, because it's a big deal and it won't come back until a lot of us, most of us, all of us won't be here anymore in 800 or 840 years or so. So this is a big deal, and we want to be able to commemorate that as such. Some of us are young, Mr. Mayor.
You're looking at it from the other side.
Moving on to our 11 Lebanon podcast. Once again, a reminder, these take place and are aired live, are put out live every Tuesday. We get the podcast via suggestions and just different things that happen, and then we put them on our city social media feeds and our YouTube channel as well. Last week, we took a closer look at Hickory Junction Fieldhouse. Always enjoy sitting down with Andy Card, and he's very candid about the different amenities that will be added to that facility and then around as well. And so talked with Andy. Coming up tomorrow, kind of serious, but at the same time, a great conversation as well. We sit down with folks from LPD, Lebanon Police Department, Sylvia CAC, and also the police department chaplain. In July, there was a free movie experience called The Sound of Freedom, and that was where the department felt led to share a free movie with the public. 1,500 or so people attended that experience, and so we talk about the collaboration with not only the mayor's office, but Lebanon 7 as well, and just kind of what led to that, and then the steps that are taking place since then. Some great conversations and some positivity, keeping our kiddos safe and doing that after the movie has left the theaters. And so that podcast episode hits around 6 a.m. tomorrow, so you can listen to that on your way to work, and there'll be a little disclaimer, some topic elements in there are sensitive, so if you have kiddos within earshot, just kind of want to know about that and be mindful of that going into it. And finally, we are getting ready to unveil, stay tuned, air quotes, for the first project from LHS intern Anna Hale. Anna is wanting to kind of get into marketing communication. She's getting ready to wrap up her first presentation, and we'll put that out. It's a video that she did, and I appreciate John Messenger with the Parks Department. We interviewed a family. Anna interviewed a family. She shot some video. She did some stand-ups and things. And so all that stuff, she really wants to kind of dip a toe into the broadcasting field. And so really helping her do that. And so you'll be able to see her piece, her work out there on our social media as well, wanting her to kind of see if it's for her. And it's a great experience that Lebanon High School offers some young people to get a chance to test drive some things before maybe majoring in that field in college. And so stay tuned for that. It'll be fun. She's a great kid and really fun to work with. So bright future, whatever she does, but that's all I've got.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions for Joe from the board? For the public? Okay, thank you, sir. All right, that concludes department head reports then. Move on to old business. Kevin, I have road closure requests. Is that correct stuff for you? Do you want to hold this off to kind of new business, talk about all at once?
That's a good question. That would be my recommendation. So what I have, what came before you last time that we put on the table was road closures associated with 300 North and the temporary traffic signals. We put that on the table because we wanted to develop more schedules with the Lilly team and the IEDC team. We have those now, and so I think it might be most effective. Some of these closures we've already sort of given approvals on, but I think it would be good to roll through all these closure schedules and give a blanket approval that way we're sure that we've covered everything.
Okay.
So yeah, if it would appease the board, I would say we can forego these two items and we'll take
Just take them under new business?
Yeah.
Okay, so can I have a motion to move items A and B under old business to merge those with item C under new business? Is that fair?
So moved.
So moved. Okay. Is it second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll address that at new business then. Next up then will actually be Major Hood with the Lebanon Police Department policy updates.
Maybe a little rusty with these. I'm going to share my screen here.
Oh, that's me. Can we do two at once?
password, is that the 4-digit code? That's- Here it comes. Okay. There we go. Thank you, guys, for your patience. I'm going to work through that. Today, I've got 5 policies to update. These are policies that you guys have already approved. All of these policies, save the one titled Investigation and Prosecution, are to meet Indiana law enforcement accreditation standards and tightening up some of the requirements they have on items our policies need to address. The investigation and prosecution policy is a change to state law that's caused this particular update. We're going to start out with the informants policy. When we sat down and work on some of these updates, I do them in conjunction with like Eric Adams of the Boone-Hamilton County Drug Task Force. Looks over these, we kind of marry up and make sure that we're not asking them to do something that the Boone-Hamilton County Drug Task Force may not be doing, and working through the policies in that manner. Specifically, what the law enforcement accreditation requirements ask us to do with this particular policy was tighten up by expense funds, the management of what those are. So most of the references that you'll see here in the blue are the proposed changes. And almost all are going to be related to by expense funds.
Any questions on that for Major Hood? Okay, thank you, Board.
The next policy was the investigation and prosecution. As we get to this update, this is one that was driven by a change in the Indiana code.
Any question on that for Major Hood? Okay.
Missing persons.
Questions on that from the board? Okay.
These are our drones or unmanned aerial vehicles. Maybe a little timeliness. I think at the last Board of Works meeting, one of the training updates was Officer Carlson completing his FAA Part 107 certification.
Questions there? Okay, final one.
And the final one, towing. And that concludes that update.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? I would like to ask that you guys approve these updates, and then we can get these published back out to the officers again with the approved changes.
Yep. With that, seeing no further questions, we'll entertain a motion to approve the policy updates as presented.
Make a motion, we approve the policy updates as presented.
Motion, is there a second? Second from Judge. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are approved. Thank you, Major.
Thank you.
All right, next will be, next I have the bid opening. Kevin, you said we didn't receive any bids. So,
Just make sure Tanya confirm, they were required to submit those to the clerk treasurer's office by 3 PM.
Okay.
Last I checked, we did not receive anything. Anybody in the room that wants to shout up that says they delivered something that,
okay.
seeing none?
Not seeing anyone jumping up and down, so I think we're
Yep,
okay.
there were no bids to open.
Okay, so essentially, procedurally, Rob will just consider that bids a no response? Yep. And are there other avenues available to us, or do we need to fully rebid?
I think we'll
Okay.
rebid it.
Yeah. I'm not aware of any other avenue available to us under bid law other than to rebid.
Okay.
We had bids and rejected them all, but
Yeah. It would be different if there was an unqualified bidder and that was our only one or something like that, but,
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah.
All righty, well, we will circle back on that and come back with a different proposal. All right. That takes us then to the road closure requests for the LEAP District Phase 1.
Second, let me connect here. try this again, sorry. Okay. Did that not work? Oh, failed to resolve. 1 second here. Try this again.
It'll come up here in a second.
Yeah. Usually does. There we go. Okay. So, thank you. As we all know, we're talking about the Lilly site, the LP1 site, if you will. That's the first major building construction that is currently happening on the site. And then tonight, really want to talk about the road closures and road work that's associated with that. I mentioned in my report previous MOUs that we have entered into with the IEDC, as well as now the approvals that have been issued with the county. And so wanted to walk you through the next several months of what road access, road closures will look like, and take the steps tonight to grant those road closures requests. So what you're seeing right now is the overall site. Obviously, the Lilly site is shown there in red, and at the north end of the screen is State Road 47. You've got 52 kind of coming across from the upper left to the middle, and then I think 65 is obvious. State Road 39 is kind of the north-south route on the east side of the road. As you zoom in here a little closer, you can see the Lilly site, you can see the proposed eastern bypass. It's flanked then by 375 north, 450 north, and then Witt Road going through the center, other than where it was previously vacated. And then 300 north is to the south of that exhibit. So several phases here I'm going to walk you through. I think there are 6 slides. So phase 1, and this is scheduled to start a week from today. So what will be starting a week from today will be closures. You can see the red lines there are the closed roads. So they will be closing 375 north from Witt Road to State Road 39. They will be closing Witt Road north from 450 north to 47. Those will remain open to local traffic. If you live in that area, you will have access to get through there in working with the construction and the temporary access facilities that they will set up. Roads that will remain open, South Witt Road, 300 north, no closures there. There will be site access to the Lilly site on 450 north, but that is for office staff only that are working in former residential structures there on the north side of the Lilly site off of 450 north. So there are a couple of homes that are still in place in this area that the Lilly and the Fluor employees work out of. So there will remain site access on 450 north, but is primarily only for those people working in that facility. So that is phase 1. Again, starting next week on the 18th. Phase 1 is not a 1-week phase. It doesn't open back up on the 25th. But when we get to the 25th, we get into the next phase of closures. So on the 25th, they're anticipated, this is pending permits from IDEM, to start on the work at 52 and 300 north. So there will be some restrictions as they begin that work. Let me switch to a different screen here. This is that intersection. And what you can see here, the speckled hatched area is the additional pavement that they will be adding. So they're adding a lane of traffic and some turning radius on 300. They're adding a turn lane on 52 for those southbound to eastbound traffic turning left. Right now, you turn in the inside lane of 52. There'll be a new lane that you'll turn from, and there'll be 2 through lanes. And then they're doing some work to widen that median crossing to accommodate the truck traffic that will be coming through there. So that's the work that's going to be happening at that intersection. So while that is under construction, there will be no left turn lanes from 300, no left turns from 300 north westbound. So as you're going west on 300, you'll only be able to turn right and go north. This is NDOT's requirements associated with that work within the right-of-way. There'll also be, while they're widening and creating that turn lane, there'll be no longer will you be able to turn left from southbound 52 to 300. So you'll still have 2 lanes in either direction for 52, or at least 1 lane in either direction for 52. You'll still be able to turn right onto 300, and you'll be able to turn right out of 300. So 300 effectively becomes a right in, right out only intersection. And that work is scheduled to start on the 25th and run for roughly a month till the 20th of October. The other projects are still closed, 375 and Whit Road North, those are still closed for reconstruction at that time, and the site access with the exception of the restrictions on 300 North will remain as they were in the previous slide. We move then into phase 3, which is when they they continue work on 300 North at the intersection, and this is primarily, as I go back to the other exhibit, this is when they will be widening 300 and crossing it with storm sewer pipes. So that will require westbound restrictions only. You'll only be able to drive westbound. So you'll no longer be able to go east on 300 from 52. It'll only be for traffic going westbound. But those left turn restrictions will be lifted at this point. So they'll get that median, those median widenings, the median left turn lane added, and then it'll be westbound only while they work on that south side of 300 North, widening that traffic. For the rest of the site, access remains the same, the closures remain the same, 375 and Whit Road North is closed, 450, Whit Road South, and 300 remain open. This is also independent of when CSX comes through to do their work. And this is primarily what happens between October 20th and October 23rd. I want to call that out. That's no additional closures, but that is when there will be the LP1 overnight concrete pour that we've heard about before, where they will start on a Friday night at like 1 a.m. and go into Saturday with a 16-hour concrete pour round the clock. So they're trying to get some of the access preliminary done, open at 352 in anticipation of that October 21st and 22nd pour, and then they will move that forward into then the widening and the storm sewer pipes along 300 North. I'm sorry. It's that following weekend. Sorry, back up. I forget these have been in flux a lot lately, so my apologies. So they're pushing that weekend of October 28th back. I'm sorry. Concrete pour is the same. Then you come to the following weekend is when they will completely, the weekend of October 28th is when they will completely close 300 North to cross that with the storm sewer. They have to put in pipes underneath 300 North, and they need to completely close that for 2 days. They'll be doing that on a Saturday and Sunday. Over that weekend, they will close 300 North. So So again, let me back up. You got Phase 2, that is starting on September 25th to October 20th, where there'll be restrictions at the intersection of 300 North and 52. There'll be that weekend pour, October 21st and 22nd, and then you get to October 25th, there will be restrictions going westbound only on 300 North. You get to the following weekend, the weekend of October 28th, that's when they will be crossing 300 North, and that will be completely closed to traffic as that work is done. Remind you, through all of those, 375 North, Whit Road North, they remain closed with the exception of access to local traffic, and the office and site access to Lilly remains the same. Once we get the 352 intersection improvements and the temporary signals installed, they move over and do restrictions on 39. So there will be a time period here where access on 39 will remain open at all times, but they will be widening 39 on the east side so that they can create left turn lanes at that intersection and install the temporary signals. And then it just goes back to, after that, the reconstructions on 375 and North Whit Road will be under construction then through the winter, hopefully wrapping up. If not, with weather not allowing, it'll probably go into spring before they wrap those up. No other closures will happen until those are complete, and then we'll be looking at South Whit Road closing for that construction, but not until after 375 and North Whit Road are complete.
Okay. Any questions on that from the board?
Yeah, I want a question. I thought you said early on that, and I'm not sure whether it's just applicable to one of these phases, or it's like, hey, this is going to happen and be this way. But I thought I heard you say if you're going north on 39, when you get to 300, you cannot turn left.
No, that is only at 352.
Oh, okay. But you
300 at 52, while they're constructing those intersection improvements and installing the temporary signals, you will not be able to turn left.
South.
Westbound 300 to southbound 52.
But you can go
only be
north.
able to go north and go
Okay.
to the right.
Any additional questions? So just use 47 is the safest route on all that stuff?
Yeah, and a lot of the construction traffic is going to be using 47, whether it's going all the way back around to 300 to get access with those restrictions on 300, or hopefully around the end of the year, the 47 exits also open back up, but I don't have a confirmation from NDOT on when that's going to happen.
Okay. So do you need approval of we already approved that, didn't we? Or do we just need to approve the?
I think the only things we really didn't approve were those intersection improvements at
The temporary-
300, the temporary signal improvements, and there will be temporary signals. I didn't mention Whit Road and 300 North, but there will be a temporary signal installed there as well, but that's currently an intersection that's under county jurisdiction. But as Mr. Reynolds mentioned, with the current annexation petitions that are before us, that may change if those annexations are approved. That would include annexation of property adjacent to that intersection, and the adjacent rights-of-way would come with those annexations.
Okay. So with that, would entertain a motion then to approve the road closure requests and the road improvements for the temporary traffic lights at US 52 and 300 North, as well as State Road 39 and 300 North, as presented.
I'll make a motion we approve the road closure request as presented.
Okay, motion approved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Bill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, those are approved. Thank you, Kevin. And now you have a road closure for Camp Street and Harney Elementary.
I do. Okay, so this is new. We previously did a closure of Harney Drive. So what you're looking at there is the overall plan, the site plan for the improvements to Harney Elementary. So they're kind of converting the bus drop-off area along Camp Street into a parent drop-off line that will then widen the Harney Drive and provide for that queuing lane along Harney and along Camp for the school district. As they were getting into that project, originally they were going to be doing those widenings under traffic, but there's some damage has shown up, some poor soil, underlying subgrade conditions along our existing Camp Street pavement has sort of surfaced as we've been looking at this. And so we're going to work with our partners at the school to actually do an additional 6 feet of removal and replacement of the pavement on the north side of our lanes of traffic. And we're going to work with them and their subcontractors to do that. But in order to take out 6 feet of a lane, we need to fully close Camp Street to the westbound traffic from Garfield to Harney Drive, so that we can do those removals and widenings. So what you see there in the red and the green are the options that we're reviewing on the pavement removal and replacements that we're, again, working in partnership with our friends at the school corporation to make happen. So this will detour that westbound traffic. They will detour down Garfield to Esplanade to Hoy, and then back up to the intersection that is Hoy and Harney, where it intersects with Camp Street. So again, this would just be a closure of westbound Camp Street traffic. They will detour around to the south. Eastbound traffic will remain in place.
So it wouldn't be under flaggers, it would just strictly be a full closure?
It would be a full closure, yeah.
The time frame on that, Kevin?
About 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, and they would like to start a week from today.
Week from today? Week from today.
Yeah, September 18th would be the start date.
September 18th.
Any questions or concerns with that? Inconvenient, but probably necessary. And
A little, but it's really only a one-block detour, so
Yeah.
we think it should be relatively easy for people to understand. We'll get all this out on our social media channel, so hopefully people can be avoiding that area. But yeah, unfortunately, it's really kind of avoidable. We don't want to. We've got a dip in our pavement there that if we didn't correct, it would just hold water as they began to widen the road. So.
Any other questions? Would entertain a motion then to approve the road closure of Camp Street as presented.
I'll make a motion, we approve the road closure request for Camp Street.
Okay, motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Bill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, that concludes what I have for new business. Is there anything from the board? Okay, move on to claims. Would entertain a motion concerning the claims.
Make a motion, we approve the claims?
Motion to approve the claims. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Alan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Claims are approved. Any announcements or discussion? Okay, would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Alan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, our next Board of Works meeting will be September 25th. The redevelopment commission is up next. We are adjourned.
Yep.